Do you need to organize your startup but don't know where to begin? I use these 13 Google Sheets templates to keep my small business organized on my phone and on my computer. Over the next 2 hours, I'll show you how to build and use these sheets. We'll start with tracking and organizing your time to keep you productive. Then move on to a client intake form, followed by an invoice to get you started. Once revenue starts flowing in, you need to track sales along with expenses and inventory. Then we'll show you 2 templates to understand loans and save for retirement. Chapters are included for your use depending on where you are at in your journey. Let's get started with finding time for your business.
Alex Ramosi and others always say you're wasting too much time, but how do you really know how much time you can get back from that wasteful activity? I'm going to show you right now how to make this Google Sheet to track your time that you can use at your desk, on your phone, or tablet anytime, day or night, no matter where you are. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how much time is productive and how much time isn't, so that you can get more out of each and every day. But I promise, if you watch the whole video, you'll also know up to 13 tricks in Google Sheets that will take you from a beginner Google Sheets user to intermediate level. Don't get discouraged by a blank sheet. Google Sheets is like a puzzle or kitchen. All the parts are in there, but we need to put it together. We'll put each step to our recipe into the form of a question to make it easier and go step by step. The first thing we need to do is create in Google Sheets a way to identify time. So, how to do a fill series in Google Sheets. To create a series in Google Sheets, use the autofill feature. Here, I'm going to enter time 12 a.m. and 12:15 a.m. to create a 15-minute partition. These will be the first 2 values of my series. Next, I will select the 2 cells and drag the fill handle, the small square in the bottom right corner, to fill the remaining cells. This will automatically continue the series based on the pattern I've established. To get a whole day, I will work this series down to 11:45 p.m. So now that we have a full day in 15-minute increments, and there is your first ingredient. But how does Google Sheets calculate time? We want to calculate time and give Google Sheets math it can use to calculate parts of a day. So I am going to create 2 full columns and then subtract column C from column B. This will return a time in column D. But if I format the cell to percent, I'll notice that every 15 minutes is 1.4% of a day. So time in Google Sheets is calculated as a fraction of a day, or a percent of a day. We've got a good start to our worksheet, but let's add some headers to understand each column: start time, end time, percent of day, and every day of the week, which we will center and underline. Formatting is like icing on the cake. It makes everything look better and adds a lot of flavor. To continue our Google Sheet to track time, we need some categories to bucket our time into. So, how do you create a data validation list in Google Sheets? When you are collecting data, like what you spend your time on, you will want to choose your categories wisely. We have work, family, sleep, chores, Netflix, social media scrolling, getting ready for work, and getting ready for bed. This is a good start for me, and now I want to set up data validation so that I can only use these options when tracking my time. Follow along step by step. To set up, click on the Data menu, then choose Data Validation. A window will open up on the right side of the screen titled Data Validation Rules. In the middle, you will notice Criteria. Click the box below and select Drop-down from a range. A pop-up window will display. Select the range, N6, N13, and click OK. The list will populate on the right. Now, we need to extend the data validation to the rest of the schedule. Click on Apply to Range and select all the cells that data validation is required. We'll title the data validation list, List of Choices, and format the title and column a bit. Now, for each of these cells, you are allowed to only use the list of choices. These will be our time buckets. The easiest way to understand time is to sum the time into buckets. So our next question is, how to use SUMIF formula in Google Sheets. To calculate the amount of time I spend in each category requires a common formula. The SUMIF function in Google Sheets allows you to sum values within a range of cells that meet a specific condition. It takes 3 main arguments: the range to check for the condition itself, the criteria, and the range to sum. Here you will see the range as column I, Wednesday, and each cell in the column relative to the time of day, I5 to I100. The criteria is going to be the representative category I want to sum. In this case, work, N6. The sum range will be the amount to sum, or the percent of day, which is D5 to D100. The result returns 35%. How is your comfort with formulas like this? Join the conversation and let us know. We need to use this formula for each category and day, but how do I keep a cell reference from changing when I copy a formula in Google Sheets? Here we want to copy the formula to each cell down the list of categories and to each day of the week. But if we try to copy the formula as I wrote it down and across, the formula won't work in the other cells. I rarely get it right the first time. It's easy to fix. But first, a little vocabulary here for beginners. Relative referencing means the cell reference in a formula moves or changes when you copy it to a new cell. But absolute referencing means the cell reference does not change when you copy or move the formula. You lock the cell for absolute referencing using the string or dollar symbol. We want to use a combination of both relative and absolute referencing in this formula. For each day, we want the range column letter to change as we copy the formula while the row numbers stay the same. For the criteria, we want to keep the column letter N, but we want the row number to move. But we want the percent of day range to always be the same. So we want $1 before the column letter and row number. So for this SUMIF formula to work, we need strings on the row for the range, a string on the column for criterion, and strings or dollar signs on the columns and rows for the sum range, like this. Then we can copy this formula to the rest of the cells in the table. As we add categories to the schedule, we can see the amounts increase from 0. Make sense? We need totals next, so how to sum in Google Sheets? Let's complete this portion of the schedule by creating totals. In cell O6, enter the formula equals sum, open parentheses, P6 colon V6, close parentheses, divided by 7. This will add P6, Q6 all the way down to V6, and then divide the sum by 7. Or the formula will sum the work category for every day of the week, with the divide by 7 reducing the sum to a daily average. Now we will copy and paste that down to get a daily average for each category. The decimal result shows up, so let's format the cell to percent by clicking the percent button and the reduce decimals button. But we will also total each day to make sure we have 100%, as we'll show later. So let's add a total here and enter a sum formula again, but this time more simple. In cell O17, fill in equals sum, open parentheses, O6 colon O16, close parentheses, and hit enter. Did you notice that Google Sheets auto-populated the range and I just hit tab to accept? Now on cell O17, hit Ctrl+C to copy and select the cells to the right and hit Ctrl+V to paste. We'll add a border here to view the total easier. Let's fill in some of these times. How do you copy with a data validation list? My middle-aged self isn't expecting to be awake from 10:30 to 5 a.m. So in cell F6, let's select sleep and copy and paste when I plan to be asleep. On cell F6, hit Ctrl+C or right-click and select copy. Then select ranges in the data validation range and hit Ctrl+V or right-click and select paste. We'll do this at the end of the day too. Copying and pasting with data validation is easy, but I like using the shortcut keys. You could also just right-click to copy, then select the cells to paste, and then right-click paste. How do you convert percent of day to hours in Google Sheets? Now we have percent of day, but what if I want to know how many hours I spend in each category per week? I'll add a column and title it total hours, because I want to know how many hours per week I spend at each activity. But how do I convert percent of a day or a week into hours? This is unconventional, but in cell 07, I'll enter the formula equals P6 times, open parentheses, 24 times 7, close parentheses. This makes sense to me and will convert the percent per day into average hours per week. Once we change the format to number and copy down, it will make more sense. If we were working with 1 day, we wouldn't need to multiply by 7. Now we can see that I have 46 hours of my week filled in. But how do I add categories to a drop-down list in Google Sheets? I want to add errands, shopping to my category list, but you may also want to add your own categories. The best way to do this is to insert a row into the middle of the list. So I'll add by highlighting the space I want to add and right-clicking on the range and select Insert Cells. Then Insert Cells and Shift down. In the list of words, I'll add the category, then copy and paste the formulas from row 12 to row 13. But the nice thing about Google Sheets is the complete flexibility to do what you want. If one of my categories isn't right for you, just rename it. Formatting can really help to further explain the story in Google Sheets. So many people will want to know, when they see all this data, how to add color in a data validation list. I want to highlight where I have perceived wasted time. For me, that is Netflix and social media scrolling. So if I didn't have the data validation rules open, I could click the data menu, then select data validation. But since I have it open, I can just click on the rule I have set and open up the customization. Here you can see the category list. From here you can select the category, specifically the arrow to the right of the circle, and change the color of that category. I'll change Netflix and social media to this light orange color so it highlights the extra time I have available in my week. As you see here, the colors automatically change throughout the worksheet. You can use more colors to really understand your week. Add colors for family or driving if you want to highlight how much they fill your week. Now let's take a minute to format the schedule so it is more readable. And while we are doing that, why would I even want to track my time for a week? Alex Hormozy recommends logging your activities over a week to pinpoint time-wasting patterns. By reviewing this log, you can identify distractions and set boundaries to prevent them from recurring. This proactive approach helps in focusing on tasks that truly matter. How much time do you think you waste each week? Join the conversation and share your experience. I think the other reason too, if you look at a day, you're like, I just don't have any time in my day. But if you look at it over a week, you can actually see moments of your days that turn into hours in any given week that you can use productively. So let's continue on and see how that works. Okay, let's get back to learning Google Sheets. And how do you make rows collapsible in Google Sheets? Many of the hours in my day are the same. The easy time blocks are all hours sleeping. I want to group these so that I can toggle them expanded and collapsed to make it easier to read. To make rows collapsible, I first have to select the range of cells to collapse. Then click on the View menu, then hover over Group, and here I'll copy rows 25 to 44. You can also use the shortcut key Alt plus Shift plus right arrow. A box with a minus in it appears with a vertical line beneath it to the right. Click the box to collapse the rows. Let's do it again with rows 113 to 119, and again with rows 60 to 88. Select the View menu, hover over Group, and select the grouping. Do you like this applied format of learning Google Sheets while building worksheets to help you in your day? If you do, subscribe today for more videos like this. The magic of Google Sheets is that when you are on the go, you can use your mobile device. How do I use a drop-down list on my phone? One of the best features of Google Sheets is how it works on mobile devices. I'm going to track my days as they occur to see where my time is spent and how the schedule works on my phone and on my laptop. To do this, open the Google Sheets app on your phone. You'll see I've got mine on the screen. To fill in a category, just tap on the cell and select from the list of items below. On my laptop, you can see the cells filling in real time. This really shows the mobile and collaborative nature of Google Sheets. Now that I have the data filled in for the whole day, I want to double check my work. Why do I only have 69% of my day filled out above, but every cell is filled in below? Or what most people ask is, how do I troubleshoot Google Sheets? I'll expand my groupings to make sure everything is filled in. All the data is entered, but let's check the formula. To check the formula, I like to select the cell and then hit F2 to edit the cell. This action causes Google Sheets to highlight the ranges and cells used in the formula. In this formula, I can see that the criteria is family. Let's scroll down and see the range. It doesn't go all the way down. But the sum range on the left appears to be selected correctly down to row 116. So to fix this, I'm going to extend the range down to row 116. But I also have to correct all the other cells in this table for everything to work. So I'll copy the corrected cell and then go to Sunday, work E6, and highlight to K17 and paste special formulas. Now Wednesday is correctly filled out, and I can trust the other days are correct too. This is why totals are important for cross-checking your work. Let's update this schedule a little. I've decided to add a category for meals. We're going to add a pie chart in a bit, but how are you following along? So far, have you nailed it? If you don't have this sheet built well, don't worry. Read our video description to learn how you can get a copy of this Google Sheet for your use today. Why is it helpful to track your time like Alex Hormozy? Alex Hormozy is right. You need to track time to understand where you can adjust your behavior to become more productive. While we speed through most of the data entry, to show you how you can use mobile horizontal and in night mode, but more to show you that I tracked my time daily to really understand if I'm wasting my time. There is something to successful people. One of those things has to be that they use their time more productively than others, and I think that I can do better. I've been working on this video for a couple of weeks, and to know that I have 8 hours in my week that are wasted on consumption has changed my life. I work every morning to prevent or limit my scrolling habit to wake up. I'm also choosing to reduce my Netflix time, or at least do something productive while watching Netflix. Even an extra 4 hours per week will change my life, and I am going to continue to track my time to stay vigilant against zombie consumption. But you really can't see where to action until you can visually see the results. So, how do you make a pie chart in Google Sheets? So now that all of our data is filled in, and we know where I have spent my week by category, one of the best ways to represent time is with a pie chart. To create a pie chart, click the Insert menu and select Chart. A box will show up that says Add a Series to start visualizing your data, as well as a chart editor to the right of the screen. The first thing to do is change the column chart to a pie chart. Next, let's select the data using the data range and selecting the 4-square box below and to the right. A window will appear. Select the categories and total hours columns and click OK. Pie charts can't get much easier than that. But how do I format a pie chart in Google Sheets? Now that we have the pie chart created, we can format to make it look better. I'm going to select Use Row 5 as headers to lock in list of choices and total hours. Next, to set up, I'm going to select Customize. Here you can see different options. I can change the background color. Let's choose gray. I can also change the chart border color. Select the arrow below chart border color, and let's change the border to red. The pie chart is flat, but let's check the 3D option to see what changes. 3D almost always looks more professional. Other options are next. You can even change the color of each slice of the pie chart. Work is blue, but Netflix is orange. You can pull out a slice of the pie by adjusting the distance from center. Let's see what 25% looks like. My other waste is social media scrolling, so let's pull that out. We can also adjust the borders by left-clicking on the box and expanding or contracting the box. Let's title the pie chart Weekly Time and center it using the title format buttons. I can also change the title color using the title text color feature like this, and I can bold. I can also move the legend. But did you notice I lost the original legend format a while ago? Which do you prefer? You can see I can also bold and italicize the legend as desired. Let's put the 2 slices back into the pie by using the distance from center. How to rearrange pie chart slices in Google Sheets. Did you know you can rearrange the slices in Google Sheets? I'd like to put Netflix next to social media scrolling, but this isn't done in the chart editor. To move the slices in Google Sheets, you have to rearrange the categories in the worksheet. So I'm going to move the social media row by inserting a row above exercise and cutting and pasting the social media row into row 11 and deleting row 17. Now we will change the legend back to labeled and see that social media scrolling is next to Netflix on the pie chart. So now with this pie chart, you can see how much time I sleep, how much time I work, and the other categories in my day. From here, you can really understand, now that you've got a full experience, what productive time you have in your week and what wasteful time you have in your week. And you can make choices like Alex Hermosi to use the time in your day and your week more effectively.
Now that you've found time in your week, let's work with this template to set up some habits. 92% of people fail at building new habits, not because they lack willpower, but because they have no system. James Clear proved this in Atomic Habits. The secret isn't motivation, it's tracking. And today I'm going to show you how to build a professional habit tracker right on your phone using Google Sheets, completely free. No subscriptions, no apps, no excuses. Before we build it, let's show you how it works. So here I have just general habits. You can choose your own. I just want to make this super simple so that you actually do it and you work through it and you create these daily habits. So what I would recommend is that you work these habits in a way to where every time you get through your day and you successfully achieve your habit, you put an X in the cell. So for reading, if I read my 10 pages this day, I'm going to put an X in there. Hydration, say I want to drink 8 glasses of water a day. If I get that done, I'm going to put an X right here. And now you can see that I've had 2 of my habits completed today, and I've got 5 habits total, so I'm 40% complete. If I go out to Monday and I can freeze this, let me show you how to do that. So now I can see my hydration, movement, reading, daily planning, and no candy there on the left. And I can see my totals. So say I do my daily planning this morning, I can put an X in here. And now I've got that one successfully done. Say I didn't eat any candy today, I'm going to put that one in. Reading, I got my reading done. I'm going to put that one in. So now you can see that I've got 60% of my habits completed today. We can do this for every day of the week. And then come the end of the week, we can see how well we did. So right now we are maybe 2 days into the week. We have 5 habits completed and we're 14% achieved of our goal, 100% being the total. And maybe for you, 80% is okay. Maybe for others, you want to have 100% and you want to create these habits and be very deliberate about it. So I know the one thing that you're asking and why you're here is how do we make this habit tracker? So let's go to a new sheet so I can show you how to do that. I'm going to hit the plus sign in the lower right-hand corner here. We're going to just start with a blank sheet. So I'm going to first type in, and in order to do that, you tap on the enter text or formula and you capitalize. And if you double click in iPhone, you can get the caps lock. I'm going to type in habit tracker. And I'm going to title this, since I already have week 1, I'm going to title this week 2. I'm going to hit the green check mark and the green check mark in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm going to title this week 2. And you can title it the day of the week. I'm just doing this so that it's not year specific or month specific, but there's week 2. Now in row 4, if you're following along, type in habit, and then let's go and fill out our week. Sunday, Monday. Now with those 2 here, I can highlight both of those, pinch to zoom out, and I'm going to go out 5 more columns. See if I can do this. I'm going to tap on it and tap autofill. And now I have all 7 days of the week set up. I'm going to highlight all of these and I'll zoom in here in a second. So to do that, I'm going to pinch and separate and go back to the top. And I'm going to format this right now so that we can get through it. And I'm going to center. I'm going to go tap cell, borders, underline. And I also want to go to text, and I'm going to tap the B for bold. So now I have all my days of the week, and I forgot that I wanted to add a total at the end because we saw how that total was helpful. So I'm going to copy, paste, and I'm going to overwrite Saturday with total. Week, total. Okay, hit return. Now I'm going to type in my habits. I'm going to type in hydration, movement, reading, planning time, and no candy. I have a sweet tooth. And then 2 rows down, because I always like to leave a row space in case I need it to add rows later. I'm going to put total. Okay. And now I'm going to put a formula in here because I need to know how many habits I have, but you may have more habits than me. So we're going to do equals count A5 to A9. And that will sum up the number of rows I have with text in it. So say I wanted to add a row, I could do that. I might say no screens. And here you'll see now I've got 6 in there instead of 5. So you can use that count A to add as many habits as you would like. I'm going to undo with the undo button at the top. And now we're back to our 5. And then underneath here, I'm going to do percent achieved. Percent achieved. And we'll use that later so we can calculate how well we're doing each day. If you're having trouble building this template with me, check out our video description for a link to this habit tracker template if you want to start from my version and customize from there. But I strongly recommend continuing to build it with me at least once, because when you understand how it works, you can modify it for anything. So now what I want to do is I want to get my cells formatted. So again, I'm going to go out, I'm going to highlight to Saturday. That's good. And I'm going to hit the underline A and I'm going to do center. I think that's all I want. So now I just have those centered. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these columns I'm going to double click on that little arrow. Let me zoom in. Double click on the circle with the 2 arrows in it, and that will narrow the column width so that I can see things better. You could do it even tighter too by abbreviating each day. I'm going to leave the X in there for Sunday just to use it to help me understand the formulas. Now I want to put an underline here to show that I'm at the end of my data. So that's going to be the underline A, cell, border, underline. And then on the total, I'm going to put in a formula, and this is a countif formula. B5 to B9. And I only want to count if it's an X. Doesn't matter capital or lowercase. Close parentheses. Okay, so there you can see I've got 1X there. And I'm going to do a border here. I'm going to do a double underline style. There we go. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to copy this and paste it out to Saturday. I'm going to have a different formula for the week total. Okay. But I think I'll copy and paste here to get the formatting, make it easy. And here I'm going to do a sum function, sum, open parentheses. I'm going to tap on I5 and drag down to I10 and hit the green check mark. Oh, so in order to look at those errors, I need to close the parentheses. There we go. And then this is also going to be a count A function equals count A. It could be countif too. I wanted to show you the difference between the 2 formulas. B5 to H5. B5, H5. Close parentheses. I'm going to get rid of the comma. And there's our 1 because we've got that X there. Now let's double check and make sure our formula is good. Count A, B9 to H9 looks good. B7 to H7 looks good, but I lost my border because I copied and pasted everything. That has the double underline, so we're going to change that. And now we're good there. Okay, the percent is rather easy too. It's just going to be a simple formula equals B11 divided by string A or $12. And what we're doing is we're creating a percent. So in column B, the total B11 is 1. A12 is the number of habits per day, 5. And we're just going to do a percent. So that'll be 20%. And in order to format that, go to the underline A, number format, percent. And then we'll back up. Decimal places, we're going to drop down to 0. Okay. We're going to tap on that, copy, paste across. Paste. Now this one's not going to be right because we've got 7 days. So I'm going to add a little bit to our formula. Times 7, close parentheses. So now we're at 3% for the week and we're at 20% for the day. So now you can see if I add an X here, we're at 40% for the day and 6% for the week. If I add an X here, we're at 20% for the day, 9% for the week. And so now you've got your habit tracker successfully built, but it's kind of hard to see. So that's why we're going to freeze this pane like I showed earlier. And you just tap there and freeze column. Now each day you can slide over and fill in to see the week total. All right, let's show you how to use this a little more. So now that I've shown you how to build the habit tracker, I've got week 2, week 1. What happens if you want to add another week? So just go and duplicate, and then you can do the drop down arrow here and rename, and we can rename it week 3, or again, choose your date. But the easiest way to clear this is to highlight. Gotta be really careful how you do this on mobile. But then you can tap that range and just hit clear. And now you're ready for your new week on Sunday morning. And then retitle this as well to week 3. And now you're good to go. So let's say you want to change a habit. Maybe reading, what you want to do is study. So you just backspace over and type study. And now you've got a new habit. You can use the clear button too here to clear it out. And then you can type in as well. And then again, just to show you how that worked before, if you want to add a row, you just tap the row number and then tap the blue area and you can insert a row above. And now you can add a new row by hitting the pencil. Maybe you want to nap every day. That might be nice. You can even add an emoji. There you go. Now you can take, a daily habit of a nap. Sounds like a good habit to me. Now, the other thing you could do is maybe this is in the wrong order. Maybe your reading needs to be done at night. What I would do here to keep that border is I would insert a row above, then I would copy this word and paste. And now I would take reading and I would copy, and paste. And now I've got reading at the bottom where I want it. And then I can highlight the row and I can delete the whole row. So now I've got hydration, movement, nap, planning time, no candy, and reading. And maybe planning time wants to be at the top. So you can, again, what I would do is I would insert a row here. I would move hydration down and paste. And then I would put planning time up at the top. And I would delete this row. There. Now let's see if our X's work. The other thing you could do if you wanted to be more clear, say you got through the whole day. Say you wanted to really give yourself a good look. So there's 6 now, 100%. You see how that worked too? All that handled it exactly the way I wanted it to. And I'll show you here in a second, but now I've got my 6. What I wanted to show was now I could highlight this all green and say that's a great day. So I could do a fill color and I could pick a green, or you could do a fuchsia. You can pick a lighter green if you want to make it more visible. And now you can start your next day with that full day fully green. And if you ever wanted to clear it, again, just highlight the range, tap. Actually, there's a bucket in the lower right-hand corner here. You can just hit reset and then it'll go back to clear. But this adjusts the column width. So if you want to unfreeze it, just tap and unfreeze column. And now you can see I've got 6 habits. And that count A formula did exactly what we needed it to do. The other thing you could do is you actually move week 3 to the front and go in order from most current on the left to oldest on the right. That way you'll always have the most current tab up front and visible and available for your use. And you notice here, I didn't see before, my formulas went away because I was adding and deleting columns. So here I'll need to copy and paste so that I can get my formulas back. And I'll put the border in and we're all set again. Let's just make sure that worked the way we wanted it to. Hitting return so I can go down just to make it easier instead of the green check. If I hit C, it won't work because my count, but it did work here because of the count A. So that's the difference between count if and count A, is that count A is going to capture any text in the count. Count if is just going to capture what's in that cell. All right, this isn't going to work, so I'm going to need to undo that, which is the X in the formula here. So if that was the count A formula, the C would work. But because I use the count if to show to you how the 2 formulas work, you'll see the C won't work. So we're going to use the X here again. And now you can see got 100% on Sunday, 36% overall for the week. I've been good with 15 of my habits, and I'm going to go ahead and clear this again to reset it for your use. We'll discuss invoicing later, but first, let's schedule our time in this Google Sheets calendar. Do you want a calendar on your phone to use anywhere on the go by you and others? And learn more about Google Sheets? Look no further. If you're a busy small business owner managing schedules and work tasks while barely at your desk, this is a great way to keep everything organized right on your phone on the go. Let's get started on this simple calendar. All right, here we go. The first thing we're going to do is title the Google Calendar. And I'm going to title it Monthly Calendar. And then in cell A2, I'm going to type month. And A3, I'm going to type year. And here I'm going to put 1 for January and 2026 for the year. And then in cell C2, we're going to determine what day it is based on what I put into B2 and B3. So in order to do that, we're going to type in equal date, open parentheses, B3, comma, B2, comma 1, because I want the first day of the month. And there you'll see January 1, 2026. If I change 1 to 6, you'll see C2 changes to June 1, 2026. And I can change B3 to 2028 like that, and you can see June 1, 2028. But let's go back to 2026, and continue. Okay, now in C3, I want to determine what day it is. So I'm going to go equals, text, open parentheses, C2, comma, quote, DD to designate day, then close parentheses. And here you'll see I've got Thursday. And I'm going to set that up for right justify to match up with 1/1/2026. Now in row 5, let's type Sunday to start making the look of our calendar. Monday. Now I'm going to go out to G. I'm going to autofill to Saturday. So as I zoom out, you can see all the days of the week are across the top. I'm going to center that, and I'm going to fill with a blue just to make it look pretty. We're good there. So now I am going to do a border, and I'm going to do a bold and an underline there. Okay, that looks good. Now what I need to do is I need to build a table so that I know how many days are in the month. So in cell I1, I'm going to type in month. And in J1, I'm going to type in day. And here we're going to type 1, 2. It's hard to type and tap on these phones, isn't it? I'm going to type 2, 3, 4, 3. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to autofill. There we go. And then this I'm going to put as 31. This one's going to be interesting because February has either 28 or 29. So let's skip that for a minute. And then we're going to go to 31 for March, 30 for April, 31 for May, 30 for June, 31 for July, 31 for August, 30 for September, 31 for October, 30 for November, 31 for December. All right, so we're done there, but let's figure out February. So in K3, I'm going to put in a formula. It says equal month, open parentheses, date, open parentheses, B3, comma 2, comma 29, close parentheses, twice, equals 2. What that's going to do is it's going to tell me whether or not year 2026 is a leap year in cell B3. Right now, it's not a leap year. So in cell J3, I am going to type in equals if, open parentheses, K3 equals false, comma, 28, else 29, close parentheses, hit enter. So now I've got 28 there, but if I fill in 2028 here, you'll notice that February is a leap year. So I'm gonna undo just to show that. And now we're gonna get into our first formula. This one's pretty simple. They get more complicated as we go. Equals if, open parentheses, C3 equals A5, comma 1, comma 0. So if C3, which is Thursday right now, equals A5, which is Sunday, then put a 1, else a 0. So here you're going to see a 0. Now in the next cell, it gets a little more complicated. So it's going to be equals if, open parentheses, A6 equals 1, comma, A6 plus 1, comma, if string C string 3 equals B5 comma 1, comma 0. Okay, so that'll help us with Monday. Tuesday, I'm going to copy and paste. Okay, Saturday needs some help because Tuesday had an error in it. If B6 is greater than or equal to 1, comma, there we go. So what that is doing is as I change the month, I'll be able to get my start day to work out the way I want to dynamically. So now let's go down about 4 rows to row 11 and let's start the next week. So here it's going to be easy. It's going to be equal G6 plus 1. Now in the next column, it's going to be easy as well. Equals A11 plus 1. Now I'm going to copy that and paste across. While I'm here, I'm going to put an underline. I'm going to pick a thinner line. So that is the second row. Third row, 16. We're going to see, again, kind of easy, equals G11 plus 1. I'm going to copy this to here. We're going to copy that, cross, paste. I'm going to underline there, underline here. Now let's go down to row 21. Equals G16 plus 1. Again, we're going to copy and paste. Okay, now here's where it gets kind of technical and we get some longer formulas because I've got to finish out the end of the month and it's a little more difficult. So we're going to go in row 26 and we're going to type equals if open parentheses G21 equals 0, then 0, else if X lookup B2, comma, I2, colon, I13, comma, J2, colon, J13, close parentheses, is greater than G21, then G21 plus 1, comma 0. Hang on. There we go. That's a tough one. All right, let's get to the next formula. These are not easy. Equals if open parentheses A26 equals 0, then 0, else if open parentheses X lookup B2, comma, I2, colon, string, I, string, 13, comma, J2, J2, colon, J13, parentheses, greater than A26, then A26 plus 1, comma 0. What I'm doing is just looking at the month, trying to figure out in that table of months and days whether or not I've exceeded the day of the months or not. And if not, I'm going to continue adding days. But if I am, then I'm going to work through it. So I believe I can copy this and paste it across, and we'll have that filled out. So now I'm going to go down to row 31, and we're going to continue. And this is going to be equals if I copy this and see if I can make it work. Let's copy that. Let's go to row 31. We're going to paste. And that's fine. We'll work through it. Okay, the ref is going to be G26. If G26 equals 0, then 0 if the X lookup. I'm going to go here. We're going to work through this. Is greater than G26, comma, G26 plus 1 again. G26 plus 1. Okay, now we got a 0 because we're over the days. And that's how that's going to work. And that's great. Okay, now I'm going to copy from here, paste here. I'm going to copy across. Copy, paste. And now my numbers are done. So I can work through and I can show you that if I go to, say, March, it's going to update the way that we want it to. Say I go to November. Let's go to December. See how 31 is on a Thursday. Sometimes it works. Let's go to July. And you'll see they dynamically work all the way through. And it will all work as well as we want. So let's go here. Let's add an underline. Now, if you don't want to build this from scratch every time, I've put this exact calendar template on my website for you. You can grab it using the link in the video description. It's ready to use. Just copy it, change the month, and you're done. So after you watch this, tap that link in the description for more details. And there's your calendar. It's done, and it looks great. And you can use it dynamically. And I've got these rows in between where you can write in your tasks and you can write in your schedules. And say you have a task here on January 1 to get something done, you can type it in, task. And then when you get it finished, you can just color it and say, hey, I'm done. Great. Or if it's priority, you can color it red. If you're worried about it, you can color it yellow. You know, whatever you want to do. And this calendar will work dynamically for you for years to come. And if you want, the advantage is that if you want to make multiple months, all you have to do is duplicate the sheet. So now I've got another month. So I can type this one and call it January. And I can title this one February. I can change this to a 2. And I've got February all set up, ready to go. And I can put this back at a 1. And I've got January all set. So I can have the whole year in a sheet for every month. And we'll underline this too to make that look good. You may want to keep track of your time with this timesheet next. Small businesses need to keep track of employee time. But as a startup, you can't afford the expensive softwares. Come with us into Google Sheets as we show you how to build a timesheet from scratch. By the end of this video, you'll have a timesheet your employees can fill in every day. Let's get started. I usually start every worksheet with a title. Here we'll title this one Timesheet, but every good worksheet also needs a description. Most all of my sheets will have the company name on top, followed by the title of the schedule and the date. You can have your employees fill in their name at the top of the sheet too. If you're a beginner, you may want to know, how do I fill a series of days of the week in Google Sheets? In cell B5, we're going to put Sunday as the first day of the week. We could go from cell C5 to H5 manually and enter in the days of the week, but Google has a feature to auto fill in the days for us. While still on cell B5, use your mouse to hover over the lower right corner of B5 until the arrow changes to a plus. Then right-click and drag the anchor across to H5 and release the mouse click. If done right, Monday through Saturday will fill in like this across the page, and that is how you can fill series the days of the week. This also works with other series common to spreadsheets, but we need to move on with our timesheet build. So, How do I make the date appear in Google Sheets? The easiest way to see a date in a new worksheet is just to key in the date as you would like to see it. We'll key in July 7, 2024, and it formats as keyed in. But maybe you don't like the date format exactly that way. While still on the date in cell B6, click on Format in the menu bar, hover over Number, then Custom Date and Time. Here you can choose many date formats and find one that you like, but if not, you can modify it. For example, I can change these dashes to slashes. And apply. There's a lot to learn here, but for now, let's add a formula to update the week of dates by the date in B6. So we'll key in C6 plus B6 plus 1. Enter. And copy C6 from D6 to H6. But now that is done, the days and dates aren't centered. So we'll select the range and use the horizontal align button to center each cell and add a bottom border with the borders button. Time clocks are set up to punch in and out times. Since small businesses usually don't have a time clock, we'll add in and out times here with a couple of breaks to be consistent and subtotals. Depending on your business, you may not need all of these, but let's add 2 breaks and a lunch to this timesheet. Now we need to ask the question, how do I insert time in Google Sheets? As your staff work throughout the day, they can put in the exact time with a shortcut key. If we go to cell B7 and hit Control plus Shift plus the semicolon, it will put in the current time. But most small businesses will pay in 15-minute increments. So I would advise you to train your staff to fill in the time and round to the nearest 15 minutes. So let's put 8 a.m. in cell B7 and 10 a.m. in cell B8. Let's also put in 10:15 a.m. in cell B12 and 12 p.m. in cell B13. After lunch, let's enter 1 p.m. in B17 and 3 p.m. in B18. Note that Google needs the AM and PM to understand the entry unless you use 24-hour time. Google will recognize the time entered with a colon, but in case you need to format the cell, click Format on the menu, then hover on Number and select Time. But we don't want seconds, so we will click Format on the menu, then hover on Number and select Custom Date and Time and choose the format with hour, minute, AM, and PM. Now that we know how to enter time, we can copy that format throughout the sheet. I like using shortcut keys, so I'll use Control-C to copy and then use my mouse to paste special the format only as needed. Now that we have time filled in, we can find out, how can I calculate the difference between 2 times in Google Sheets? To calculate the time worked in this first entry, create a formula in B9 equals B8 minus B7. Copy that formula throughout the spreadsheet. This will allow us to calculate the hours worked for each time in and time out entry during the week. I'm going to add some more in-out times here to make sure everything is working well. Here you will notice that the time worked is being calculated as time. So let's convert it to a number and see what happens. Here you can see a decimal, so this doesn't work. But there is a solution. In cell B9, enter the formula equals hour, open parentheses, B8 minus B7, close parentheses, plus minute, open parentheses, B8 minus B7, close parentheses, divided by 60. And hit enter, and like magic, time is converted to a number that makes sense, and yes, Google Sheets can calculate hours worked. Now you can copy that formula throughout the worksheet. But we don't have how many hours worked by day yet, so can Google Sheets calculate hours worked? We're building up to this well so far. We have been able to enter time in Google Sheets in a readable and understandable format. We have also calculated the difference between a start time and end time. But we need to go further and add multiple time entries per day. So in cell A25, I'm going to enter total to describe the row. And in cell B25, there are a couple ways to do this. The easy way is to enter the formula equals B9 plus B14 plus B19 plus B24. But another way to sum the four sections is in C25, enter equals sum, open parentheses, C9, comma C14, comma C19, comma C24, close parentheses. Either formula provides a similar result. Copy these totals to the rest of the sheet. Now we need to total the hours per day to get a weekly total. In cell F26, title the result as total hours for the week. And in cell H26, enter the formula equals sum, open parentheses, B25, colon, H25, close parentheses. Now, all we have left is to clean up the page a little with borders. Put a border above each total row using the borders button like this. I select the cells above the total, click borders, and select the bottom border. But you could also select the totals row and use the top border like this. But for the final in and out, you will want to put a border above and below the total. And let's put a border above the total hours like this. And add a double border under the total like this. Now that we have some organization and working our plan, let's start our client database, and later we'll show you a sheet to help you with loans. In this video, I show you how to build a professional questionnaire with Google Forms right from your mobile phone. To show you how the features work, we're going to build a new customer registration form together. But you can use these exact same steps for a school survey, a party invite, or to track personal expenses or anything else. If you want to build a survey and automatically collect the results into Google Sheets, follow these 11 steps. Let's get started. How do you create a Google form on your phone from scratch? To begin, we're going into Google Chrome on my phone, and we are already logged in with our Gmail account. The reason we're going into Chrome is because there is not an app for Google Forms from Google. So don't get scammed by an app when you can do this in Chrome super easy. From there, type in Google Forms and select the website or go to forms.google.com. Since we are already logged in, the site takes us to create a brand new form. To complete this step immediately, name the form. We'll title ours Customer Intake Form. This naming step is clunky because every time you backspace over the U, the full words come back. So enter the name and then delete the U. Before we get to the next step, add a description to provide more details if you would like, similar to what I'm doing here. Step 2. How do you add questions to a survey in Google Forms? We're going to keep it simple with these next questions. The first question we are going to ask is, what is your company? We're going to select short answer and make the field required. Next, we will add in first name and last name. These will similarly be required. but the next question will request the phone number, but it won't be required. Then we're going to ask for an email address and make it required. Simple, right? But I also want to know the date they filled out the form, so we'll request that and use the date format to provide data validation. How do you adjust the settings in Google Forms? Once the questions are developed, tap over to Settings. Here you can actually require an email address to submit the form. It can be a validated email, but we are just going to require that they put an email in, selecting responder input. You'll see other settings in here like limit to 1 response or allow response editing and form defaults, but this is a simple tutorial, so we'll keep moving. Step 4. How do you modify the look of Google Forms? A plain purple form looks like homework, but a branded form looks like a business. We're going to hit the Customize Theme palette to upload your company logo as the header image, or you can select a provided banner image. Additionally, you can change the font and the colors on the form as well, as you can see here. And now in the form, you can see the changes. But we'll go back to the simple form to continue our tutorial. Step 5. How do you remove questions from Google Forms? Sometimes you have questions on the form that you need to remove. I have this email address question that I'd like to remove. The first thing you must do is tap on the question. Then tap the 3 dots in the lower left-hand corner and tap Remove. You can also see some other options here, including duplicate, description, and response validation. Step 6. How do you share a Google form with others to collect data? We need to make this accessible anywhere. When you are done with the form, tap the paper airplane to send, which will open a Publish Form window. Tap Publish. The next window is the Share form. Make sure the editor is just yourself and the responder is anyone with the link. Now tap Done in the lower right corner. The next step is to tap the link button, or the window may come up on its own. Select Shorten URL and copy the URL. Now you have a clean professional link that you can text, email, or post to social media, giving you a functional client intake app in your pocket. You could also set up a QR code to make it fancier. Before we create the Google Sheet that stores your data, we've built a working system on your phone to collect useful information. If you want to celebrate and get more practical tools like this, hit that subscribe button. I've spent 30 years as an accountant living in spreadsheets, and now I'm sharing all those secrets to help you run your business better with Google Sheets. Okay, let's get to the next step. And how do you set up a Google form to send data to Google Sheets? In Google Forms, tap the Responses tab and notice the 0 responses. Here you can tap on the Google Sheets icon or the 3 dots and select Destination for responses. A window will open up, then select the destination. The choice here is to create a new spreadsheet. Change Untitled Form Responses to a file name of your choice and then tap Create. This will launch the Google Sheets app on your phone and create a file in your Google Drive. If you don't have Google Sheets on your phone, download it from the App Store. Here you can tap on the file name and see the list started with column headers. There isn't anything more to do here, so what is it like to fill out a Google form? You never want a client to be your beta tester. We are going to open a new Chrome tab, paste in the URL, and fill out the form exactly as a customer would. Here is the first look of your form. Fill in the fields as you see them. Fill in your email address, company, first and last name, job title, phone number, and today's date, and click Submit. Step 8. How do you confirm the data has transferred safely to Google Sheets? Now for the moment of truth, we will switch apps over to the Google Sheets mobile app and open the spreadsheet we created in Step 7. You should see a new row instantaneously populate with the answers you just typed, proving that your automated system is live, working, and ready to start organizing your business without you lifting a finger. We have more to go, but since we're dealing with client data here, security is huge. If you want to make sure your business is secure and you have that professional custom email address like I have at an affordable price, you should really look at Google Workspace. Find the link with a 14-day free trial in the video description. Okay, back to the list. And how do you update your form when your business changes without breaking the link to your spreadsheet? Businesses evolve and your form needs to keep up. If you need to add a new service or fix a typo, simply open the form again from your Google Drive. Make your edit and it saves automatically. Let's add a question with a longer response capability. I'll tap Add in the lower left corner. Now enter the question, how can we help? The best part, did you notice that Google Forms understood my question and changed the response from multiple choice to paragraph? That's pretty cool. Google Sheets is smart enough to handle the change, but how do you organize questions in Google Forms? My question was added at the top of the questionnaire, and I would like to move it down. All you need to do is tap and hold the 6-box icon at the top of the question and slide it into place where you would like the question to be presented on the finished form. It's not the easiest to do, so keep trying like I am here to place it at the end of the form. But how do you add a question with a drop-down list of answers in Google Forms? To add a question with a predetermined list, tap Add, then type in your question. Select the drop-down arrow and select Drop-down. Fill in option 1 and continue down the list to populate all your options. When done, send your form and test again. Hopefully you will get to invoice clients. This next template will help you do that with ease. I could select this Google Sheets template, but it's missing the real reason small businesses don't get paid. After 30 years in accounting, I'm going to show you 9 upgrades that turn a simple invoice into actual money. Let's get started. We're going to do a quick overview of the invoice first, but watch until the end because missing even one of these upgrades can be the difference between getting paid or watching your invoice rot in collections. What does a basic invoice need? A basic invoice doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need a few key pieces of information so your client knows exactly who you are, what they owe, and when it needs to be paid. In a typical template like the one shown in Google Sheets, you'll start with your company information at the top, including your business name, address, and contact details, so the client knows who the invoice is coming from. Next, the invoice should clearly say invoice and include the date the invoice was submitted, along with a unique invoice number that helps both you and the client track the payment later. The middle section usually identifies who the invoice is for and who should pay it, along with any relevant project name and a clearly listed due date, so there's no confusion about payment timing. The most important section is the itemized list of products or services where you describe each item, show the quantity, unit price, and automatically calculate the total for each line. Finally, a basic invoice should summarize the charges with a subtotal, any taxes, adjustments, or discounts, and the final total amount due. When these elements are clearly organized, even a simple invoice like this one communicates invoice basics. Now that we have a general understanding of the elements of an invoice, let's continue with, how do you create an invoice register in Google Sheets to track payments? Creating an invoice is great, but if you're running a small business, you also need a way to track every invoice you send. That's where an invoice register comes in. Inside Google Sheets, you can add a second sheet that tracks your invoice number, client, date, due date, amount, and payment status. But on mobile, you will want to put payment status next to the invoice number, as you will want to see that front and center. And for when you're not getting paid, add this days past due column to know quickly how late payments are. Every time you create an invoice, you add one row to this register so you instantly see what's been sent, paid, or overdue. And because we don't want to enter data twice, we'll use formulas to pull the invoice information directly from the invoice sheet. This gives you a simple dashboard that ensures the work you've already completed actually turns into money in your bank account. We'll discuss payment methods in a minute, but how do you create a unique invoice number in Google Sheets? Another important part of learning how to create a professional invoice is using a unique invoice number. Every invoice should have its own identifier, so you and your client can reference it later without confusion. But to do this well, build your Google Sheet so that each page is an invoice, but the first page is an invoice register. Inside Google Sheets, this is easy to create by renaming the Worksheet tab to the invoice number and adding a simple invoice number field with the right formula near the top of the document. Many businesses use a numbering system that includes the year followed by a sequence number, such as 26-001 or 26-002, or 26 equals the year. This makes it easy to track invoices over time and keeps your accounting records organized. If a client contacts you months later with a question, having a unique invoice number allows you to find the exact invoice instantly in your Google Sheet invoice workbook. Now, let's keep building, and remember earlier when I said we'd add a way for clients to pay your invoice in about 5 seconds? This is where we do it. So, how do I make it easy to pay an invoice using Google Sheets? This might be the single fastest way to get paid. To get paid quickly, add a QR code directly to the invoice. Inside Google Sheets, we can generate a QR code that links to a payment page such as Venmo, PayPal, or another payment service. Here you can see me adding my Venmo account to this invoice and the QR code. When the client opens the invoice, they can simply scan the QR code with their phone camera, and it will take them directly to the payment page. Scan my QR code now and make a payment. See how this removes friction from the payment process and can dramatically speed up how quickly you get paid. I can't imagine anybody's going to send me a payment, but you can't blame a guy for trying. The benefit to QR codes is that you can also send them to a payment portal on your website or just a payment methods page for more details. Later, we'll tell you how you can get a copy of this template, but before we continue, is adding the QR code to your invoice a great idea? Yes? Then subscribe today for weekly content showing you how to build useful systems in Google Sheets for your small business to run on your phone like this one. It's nice to request payment, but maybe more importantly, the next two items communicate the consequences of not getting paid. How do you add payment terms to an invoice? Another important step when learning how to create a professional invoice is including clear payment terms. Payment terms explain what happens if the invoice is not paid by the due date. Many businesses include a short statement explaining their late payment policy or additional fees. But you want to get paid fast, so don't extend terms. As you see here, put in a note near the amount due that states payment due upon receipt or within 7 days. But payment terms alone rarely motivate someone to pay quickly. That's why this next question matters. What terms and conditions should be on an invoice? When creating an invoice in Google Sheets, the Terms and Conditions section is where you clearly communicate the expectations around payment, so there are no surprises for you or your client. At a minimum, most small business invoices add to the payment terms what happens if the invoice is paid late. This section can also explain acceptable payment methods, whether there are late fees or interest charges, and any policies related to disputes or refunds. The goal isn't to write a long legal contract. It's simply to make sure the client understands when payment is expected and what the consequences are if payment is delayed. Having these terms written directly on the invoice can help prevent misunderstandings and gives you a clear reference point if you ever need to follow up on unpaid work. Of course, every business situation is different, so this example is for general informational purposes only, and it's always a good idea to consult with an attorney to make sure your terms and conditions fit your specific situation and local laws. But before you make that call to an attorney, and before our next question, use Gemini AI to get good ideas of terms and conditions catered to your situation for an efficient conversation. But even better, if you need help with prompts, let me know in the comments below and I can share some that I use. Because everything we're building here is inside Google Sheets, which is part of Google Workspace, you might be ready for an upgrade. If you're running a small business, you need your own .com email, confidential Google Docs, Google Drive with added storage, and Google Sheets so you can manage your business from anywhere with more cloud storage and better security, all powered with Gemini AI. Try Google Workspace today for your business with the link in our video description and get a free 14-day trial and more details. Later, we will show you how to get the invoice to your client, but first we should ask, how do you format an invoice in Google Sheets so it looks professional? Another key part of learning how to create a professional invoice in Google Sheets is formatting. Even if the numbers are correct, a messy spreadsheet can make your business look disorganized. A professional invoice should have clear sections, consistent fonts, and borders that separate important areas of the document. Spending a few minutes formatting the invoice makes it easier for the client to read and creates a much more polished presentation. I like to see an invoice with the company logo, and you can add your image over cells like this. I also like to highlight the important information, so I'm going to improve the visibility of the due date. I'm also going to highlight the total so it stands out. We have more to come, but if you'd like the Google Sheets invoice template already built, including automatic totals, tax calculations, formatting, and the QR code payment system, I've included a link in the description where you can get the template and start invoicing from your phone in just a few minutes. How do you send an invoice from Google Sheets to a client? To send an invoice out of Google Sheets, tap the three dots, tap Share and Export, tap Print, select the proper page, tap Share, save to Google Drive, and then you can email out to your client using Gmail. Google Workspace really does fulfill the back office system you need. How do you make multiple invoices in Google Sheets? To create another invoice, duplicate this sheet and rename the new sheet template and put it next to the invoice register. Now you can update that sheet if you want, and then every time you have a new invoice, you can duplicate the template sheet. Rename the worksheet to the next invoice number, complete the invoice, and send. As you invoice using the invoice register, it's nice, but not all revenue comes from invoices. So you'll need this revenue tracker to understand all your incoming money, and later we'll show you how to track expenses for your business. So here we are in Google Sheets with an untitled spreadsheet. I'm going to call this net income tracking. So we're going to put in every month of the year, starting with January. To keep track of sales, expenses, and profits for my new business, we'll show you how to fix the div 0 error and replace it with something better. But stay until the end to learn whether the business made or lost money in the first year. Even I don't know yet. Let's left align these because formatting is so important. Because I have it zoomed in, I don't have the alignment button on my screen. So I will left align there. And I am going to put sales here, expenses here, and net income here, and net income percent. Let's format it to make it look good. Column headers usually have a bottom border. And we'll center the column titles to make the schedule look more professional. Now, in January, I didn't have any sales, but I had $500 of expenses. So my net income was negative 500, and my net income percent is net income divided by sales. And you'll see right away I get a div error. But if I had $250 in sales and I had $450 in expenses and I had a loss of $200, it would provide for net income percent of sales equal to negative 80%. That's a big loss in percent terms. Kind of hard to recover from those 2 months, but let's see how the rest of the year goes. So say my sales increased to $750 in March, $600 of expenses in March. I'm going to copy these formulas down. While I do that, subscribe today to learn Google Sheets to understand and grow your small business. You'll see there I have 150. I copy this formula down. You'll see I get a bunch of divs. What does div 0 error mean? The pound div divided by 0 exclamation point error occurs when you are dividing an amount by 0. So in this case, you'll see in January I had sales of 0, I got the error. When I had sales of $250, I got 0.8. So let's change this to a percent because again, taking time to format really helps to understand your business performance. I'm going to go to 1 decimal place and you'll see here that when I have sales of $750 and expenses of $600, $150 of net income, I have a 20% net income percent. Now let's go to $900 in sales. Say we have a lot of expenses. Let's say we have $800 this month. And you'll see that I have 11.1% net income to sales. So now you see that I do not have the error when there are sales, but I have the error when sales are 0. And a lot of new businesses will have days or weeks or months that don't have sales. So let's go May 2025 and say here there's only $400 of expenses. And again, I still have the div divided by 0. So how do I get rid of the div 0 error? What you need to do is add a formula to recognize that there's a problem and then provide a result in replace of the div error. So now what we want to do with this formula is add the if error statement, comma, sales are 0, or any words to communicate the denominator is 0. So now we know that the sales are 0 and it will return an error. If I copy this down,
you'll see I get the same result, but now I'm communicating, instead of the div 0, that I have a formula that I can't calculate, and I'm communicating why. So now if I copy this down the rest of the way and fill out the remainder of my sheet, I can have sales of 600, expenses of 200, sales of 0, expenses of 300, sales of 1100, expenses of 800, sales of 400, expenses of 275, and then let's do sales of 300, 0, 250, and expenses of 400, 300, and 100. Now I can total the year with a sum function and see that I had sales of $4,550, copy and paste there to get expenses of $5,125, or a loss in this case of 12.6% and $575. So I lost money in my first year of my business. So to help this schedule communicate better, how do I format data in Google Sheets? And I can also format, again, to make it look good, because I like schedules and they are more readable when the formatting is better. I'm going to add dollar signs up here in the first row, and dollar signs in the last row. Let's see if I can get rid of those parentheses. I don't like that. There we go. So I know that these are now dollars.
Later, we'll discuss how to build a QR code in detail, maybe to accept payments via Venmo or PayPal. But now let's show you how to build an expense tracker. Can you write off YouTube expenses? Not if you don't track them. Most creators are paying the IRS too much, but you don't have to. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build the only Google Sheet you need to track every single expense for your tax return and your YouTube business. Let's get started. I like to start with a blank spreadsheet so you can see how it's built. Let's add some titles so we know what the sheet is for. But I'm going to do what most don't. I'm going to copy and paste my bank transaction data to show you how much I spend on my YouTube channels. So now that I've exported bank data, I know what I can get from there and the columns I need. But to understand the numbers, I'm going to need some more columns. Let's add a column for category so we can summarize the spending. As I clean up these transactions, I've had this channel for over a year, and my other channel, Camp Brood, with over 2 million views and 4,300 subscribers, I started 5 years ago. But I'm also an accountant with over 30 years of experience with spreadsheets and financial data. So this channel is built to help YouTube creators handle the back office administration of running a business. Now that I've cleaned that up, I have some other expenses that I want to make sure I include. This month I bought some product from Amazon to make some product review videos. While I enter that, make sure you check out the video description for a link to this Google Sheet template while you watch the whole video so you know how to use it. To adjust the column width, click the double arrow icon and slide the column border left. Now let's click the border button and add a bottom border under the titles and center the text with the justification button. I also want to add a total. I like to do this above the data sometimes so that I don't have to scroll down to find it. Let's now click the Format Number button to make the amounts look better. Now I'll click the Paint Can button to fill the header row and the total expenses. I know of some more expenses from last year that I want to add, so let's add those dates. And while I have the option, let's convert this to a table for greater Google Sheets functionality. While I add these expenses, know that you can create your own categories. Now let's sort the table by date. Click the arrow next to the date, click Sort Column, then click A to Z or Z to A to put the most recent on top. To summarize data, I like to use pivot tables. So make sure your cursor is on the table, then click Insert Pivot Table. Here we will add the amount to the Values section and the category to the Rows section. I also want to see the spend by year, so let's bring the date over to the Column section. That shows in the pivot table by day. One way to do it is to add columns for month and year and select those in the pivot table.
The other way is to right-click on a date and create a pivot date group. We'll show both ways, but in the template we share with you, it will use the pivot date group and we'll remove the month and year. So let's go to the table and add month and year. So click Add, and we'll title the first column Year, and then use equal year, open parentheses, A8, close parentheses, to capture the year from the date. In the next column, type month, and then equals month, open parentheses, A8, close parentheses, and copy and paste the formulas down. This will add columns we can pivot on. Now below the pivot table, we can click on the edit button and add year. Many people are visual learners. Here is where a pie chart could be helpful. Let's use Google Gemini to build one from this pivot table. Wow, that seemed to work well. It inserted the pie chart in a new worksheet. This is great for simple ad hoc charts. Anyway, I want a little more detail about my expense, so I'm going to add a vendor column. While I populate that data, unlock the Gemini AI features like this and get a professional ad-free email for pitching brands, upgrade to Google Workspace using my exclusive link below. It's the essential step to taking your YouTube channel from a hobby to a legit business. Now I am going to duplicate the pivot table sheet and exchange the category in the rows with vendor. I want the pie chart to update as I make changes to the expense list. I like what Gemini did in concept, but I need more. So I'm going to delete this first pie chart and create a new one. Let's duplicate the pivot table and title this new sheet Category Summary Chart and add a chart. The bar is negative, and as you can see, pie charts can't do negative numbers. So to solve this, we are going to have to change the sign in the expense. Here I am going to create another column temporarily and use equals ABS, open parentheses, D8, close parentheses, and copy the formula down to get the absolute value of the expense. Now I'm going to copy, paste special values to get a positive result. And amazingly, through the power of Google Sheets, the pie chart now works. I'll delete that temp column now. But do you know what's best about Google Sheets? You can take it on the go. Here, let's switch to mobile and I'll show you how to add an expense. Bring up the Google Sheet in your Sheets app. Enter a new transaction with the date, description, category, vendor. But what is really valuable for tax purposes is that you can take a picture of the receipt and add it to your spreadsheet. Tap the plus, tap Insert Image in Cell, tap From Camera, take your picture, and tap Use Photo. Now the image is saved in the sheet for documented proof of the expense. Did you notice that the pivot table and the pie chart updated with the new amounts? This is a simple but complex enough schedule to help you manage your expenses. But do you wonder how to see that receipt later? Me too. The best way I've found is to copy the cell into a new cell in a new worksheet and then expand the cell size to see and read the image. Let's head back to the pivot table and show how to group the pivot by years using the date column. Right-click on any date in the pivot table and select Create Pivot Date Group. Then select the view you would like. Here I am going to select month to see how it works. Now I'm going to select year month, and you can see the same data with a more descriptive column header. Finally, let's select year to return to the original pivot table we viewed earlier, but instead of using a specially made year column, we can use the pivot date group feature to display the view we want.
Many businesses need to track inventory, and this sheet gets you started. Come on a journey with us as we make a simple inventory sheet for your small business. Through watching this whole video, you'll have a tool to keep track of your inventory, and you won't need to be a Google Sheets expert to use it. Let's get started. I like to start with a blank Google Sheet so that you can follow along and learn as we work together. Let's start with the title and name the sheet inventory. I created this video to help a Reddit user with their Pokemon coaster business. In the post, the Reddit user gave us a list of Pokemon names. We'll type them in now. The bad thing is that I don't know if I can pronounce any of them. The Reddit user asked on Reddit how to track their inventory balances by part, and they also wanted to be able to add inventory and subtract inventory as they make and sell coasters. Now we have a list of parts in the form of 7 Pokemon, and we're going to title this column Inventory Balance here. And now over to the right, we're going to create an inventory schedule. So we're going to take our first one and fill in the part name, then fill in date, description, and change in inventory as our column headers for each part. Now let's fill in the first record. Let's use March 8, 2025 as the date, make for the description, and 5 for the number of parts made. Now let's add another transaction to sell 3 parts on March 9, 2025. But now we have to manually add in our head what was bought and sold. So let's add a sum at the top to maintain an inventory balance. In cell H2, fill in equals sum, open parentheses, H4 colon H160, close parentheses, just to have enough rows for your transactions. But now we know the total of 8 is incorrect. We need to make the sales a negative number. Now the inventory is corrected too. Most of the Google Sheets I've seen for inventory here on YouTube and elsewhere are complicated, but that is the last thing you need. When you are getting started, you need something easy. With the schedule we are building together right now, you'll be able to have just enough so that you can focus on more important things, and then add the complexity later as your business grows. The next step is to tie the inventory for the part to the inventory summary on the left. So in cell B3, type equals H2. But this sheet doesn't look good yet, so how do I format cells quickly in Google Sheets? Now to make this look better, let's format a little. It's good practice to make your schedules presentable, and some simple formatting can make a good schedule into a great one. Let's add a bottom border by clicking the border button and choosing bottom. Center the titles using the horizontal align button. Merge and center the part name by using the merge cells button and the horizontal align button. Box the inventory balance with a thick border by using the button. Click border style. Select the thicker line. Wrap text on change in inventory using the text wrapping button. And let's fill in the part name and balance using the fill color button to make it display nicer. Now let's move the summary down a little and add a worksheet title and a date. Now let's format the summary a little with borders and add the column title part. But I don't like the thick border, so I need to apply the thin border. But I only have one part detailed, so I need to copy and paste the rest of the part numbers. I'll show you how to do that now. I like to use the shortcut key Ctrl-C to copy and Ctrl-V to paste. Here we will paste across. To see how many I have, it's time to add the formulas to the inventory summary. Here I'll add equals and the cell number for each part's inventory balance. But as I move to the right, I run out of room because Google Sheets only provides to column Z when you open a new worksheet, and we need more than 26 columns. So now I will need to add some columns to get all 7 parts on my worksheet. How do you add columns in Google Sheets? To add columns, we'll highlight some columns and then right-click. In the menu, we will click on Insert 4 columns right. Now we are going to copy this last part to make 2 more sets. Now let's change the title of each part number schedule. Using the summary, we'll copy the parts and paste special values to title each grouping. Now let's change some quantities to make the sample data a little better. We're going to continue by changing the first line to be the beginning inventory. Leave this at 0 if you don't have anything made yet. We're also going to add some inventory transactions to the first part. But what if you want to know how many you sold and how many you made? So the Google Sheets question we need to ask is, how do you sum based on categories in Google Sheets? We can add a little more to this schedule using the SUMIF formula. We are going to use 2 categories, make and sell. It's important as we are creating transactions that we use these 2 words only. So don't use sold or produced, for example. But in cell H3, let's work this formula. Type in equals SUMIF, open parentheses, G7, colon, G33, comma, G3, comma, H7, colon, H33. Now you can see the formula adds only the values that relate to the word make. G7 to G33 is the column that we want to look at. G3 is what we are looking for. H7 to H33 is what we want to sum. We'll type in similar for sell, and that is how you use the SUMIF formula. Now you can see we made 5 and sold 6. What's great is because this sheet is so simple, we can copy and paste these 4 cells to the other 6 parts. Let's continue to add transactions to show you how this works. As we add inventory transactions, the totals all follow as needed. The real benefit is that you can work this on your phone as well. You can easily use this by month. To move to the next month, duplicate the sheet, rename the sheet to the next month, now take the inventory balance for each part and enter it into the inventory balance. Then remove all of the copied transactions like this, and start the new month fresh. As you make and sell parts, you can add transactions. You can even use the mobile app to keep this sheet current. Here's a great way to know how much interest you'll pay and your monthly payments. Come with us and take some control by learning how to make and use a loan amortization schedule to understand and keep track of your loan like we do. Let's get started. We like to hike, so as we walk you through this schedule in Google Sheets, I hope you don't mind us sharing some views of the Grand Canyon like this view from Bright Angel Trail. We'll tackle the loan amortization schedule by working through a series of questions. Watch the whole video to uncover how valuable this worksheet will be to your business and personal finances. Our first question really starts the process of understanding loans. What is the payment function in Google Sheets? The payment function in Google Sheets, or PMT, is used to calculate the payment for a loan based on a constant interest rate, the total number of payments, and the loan amount. It's particularly useful when you want to determine the monthly payment on a car loan or any type of loan with a fixed interest rate. So the main inputs you need to know are the amount of the loan, the interest rate of the loan, and the loan term. The loan term is how many months or years the loan will be outstanding, which is also how long you will be making payments. So let's work through a loan that is for $150,000 and has an interest rate of 7% with a 30-year term. Almost all loans have these 3 things, and all basic loans will work this way. To learn the monthly payment for this loan, type in equals PMT, open parentheses, B12, which is the interest rate, divided by 12 months, the months of the loan, or 360, and the present value, or the loan amount, close parentheses. I also added a minus sign after the equals, as the PMT function returns a negative amount without the minus sign. Here you will see the monthly payment will be $997.95. Now that we understand the payment function and how to find out what your monthly payment will be, we should understand the loan further by building an amortization schedule. Let's start with the month column and answer, how do you insert sequential numbers in Google Sheets? We are going to have a row for each month in our loan amortization schedule in Google Sheets, so the first column will be titled month. Under that, I am going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4 in subsequent rows. Now, to insert sequential numbers, I can use my mouse and highlight A7 to A10, and then left-click on the cell anchor, and while holding the click, dragging the mouse down the column. When I've reached a good spot, release the click, and the cells will populate with a sequential list of numbers. Here you can see me go to 40. You can also do this with dates and other numbers in a series. But there is another way to insert a list of numbers. I can use the formula equals plus the cell above, in this case A46 plus 1. Now, in A47, you can see the number 41. Now I can copy and paste that formula as far down the sheet as I would like. For our loan amortization schedule, we want to get to 360 months, or 30 years times 12 months. Now, to get back to the top,
Let's use the shortcut keys, Control Home. Google Sheets builds on a foundation of basic skills. In order to build this loan amortization schedule, we need to know the efficient ways to insert sequential lists like the two we just shared with you. It's good to also know shortcut keys. Subscribe today to take your Google Sheets education to the next level. By subscribing, the next time you search for anything Google Sheets, our videos will come up at the top of your search results. Okay, this schedule is still looking unfinished. So while we hike South Cobweb Trail, let's continue with the question, how can I track loan payments in Google Sheets? Now that we have the series of months listed in column A, we need to build out the column titles for the information we need to track your loan payments in Google Sheets. The information we need to track loan payments are the beginning loan amount, the payment, the interest amount, and the principal amount and the ending loan amount. Interest is the amount you pay the bank each month for borrowing money from them, but the principal amount is the amount of money the loan was reduced by with the payment. As you make payments, these columns will help you understand where you've been with the loan, where you are going, and as important, where you are. As we continue with the design, you'll see how it all comes together. How do I create an amortization schedule for a loan? Here is where the schedule starts to come together. We have our month column filled out, but have to work on the rest. The beginning amount column will be the loan amount outstanding before each payment for that month. Here in cell B7, we will type in equals B1 to capture the amount financed. In cell B7, we will type in equals string B string 4. The strings are also known as $signs to capture the monthly payment amount calculated above, and we will use the strings as we will copy that cell later. The interest formula in cell D7 will be equals B7 times open parentheses B2 divided by 12 close parentheses, and we will use relative cell referencing or strings to lock B2. The result is $875. The principal will be the payment amount less the interest amount, so type in cell E7 equals C7 minus D7, which is $122.95. The ending amount is the ending amount of the loan after the payment, so we will type in F7 equals B7 minus E7. How can I tell how my loan payment changes over the life of the loan? Now that we have the first payment detailed, we can work on month 2 and the rest of the schedule. The beginning loan amount for month 2 will be the ending loan amount from month 1. So in cell B8, type in equals F7. The payment doesn't change, so you will want to copy cell C7 to C8 or type in cell C8 equals string B string 4. Again, the relative cell referencing, so we always pick B4 if we copy and paste this cell. But the interest amount will be calculated, so in cell D8, type in equals B8 times open parentheses string B string 2 / 12 close parentheses. The 12 is to take the annual interest of 7% and get the rate to a monthly amount because most loans require monthly payments. The principal amount will again be the payment less interest, or type in cell E8 equals C8 minus D8. The ending amount will be the beginning amount less the principal, or type in cell F8 equals B8 minus E8. Now, row 8 can be copied down the schedule. So copy B8 to F8 and paste down every row until you get to the 360-month row, or row 366. A little tip here is to go to cell B8 and use shortcut keys Control-Shift right arrow, then Control-C to copy, then go to the month column and Control plus down arrow to get to the last month. Then in cell B366, Control-Shift up arrow and Control-V to paste the whole area highlighted. These shortcut keys make copy and paste go a lot faster. So now you can see each month detailed in the Google Sheet. How do you remove the $sign in Google Sheets? I like to format my Google Sheets schedule so I have only $signs on the first row and the total rows, if any. Over the years, I've learned it's a traditional accounting format that I like. So to remove the $signs from the rest of the rows, I am going to highlight the cells to format. Then click the 1, 2, 3 number format button and click the number format. Here you will see all of the $signs removed. Now that the schedule is almost done, we'll start reading and understanding the schedule next. But if you want a copy of this schedule, check out our video description for details. Read it now while you continue watching. What does a loan payment tracker in Google Sheets do? So now that we have the loan amortization schedule built in Google Sheets, let's analyze what it can do. You can see in this example in column D that the loan starts off with monthly payments mainly going to interest. In column E, only $122.95 is going to principal. Long duration loans like this will provide a lower payment but a lot of interest expense. Let's add a couple of columns to track interest and principal. In cell G6, title the column Accumulated Interest.
In cell G7, type in equals D7, and in cell G8, type in equals D8 plus G7. Now if you copy G8 down the column, you will notice the interest expense on this $150,000 loan is almost $210,000. But type in H6, accumulated principal, and format the cell to center, rev text, and add about a border. In cell H7, type in equals E7. In cell H8, type in equals E8 plus H7. Copy cell H8 down the column to learn how much principal is paid off. At the bottom, you will see the loan of $150,000 is paid off, proving the schedule works as designed. But what if we change the dollar amount of the loan to $100,000? We'll see the interest expense reduces to $139,508 with a monthly payment of $665.30. But how about we change the term of the loan to 20 years? Here you will see the interest is only $86,000, but the payment increased to $775.30 per month. But if I change the interest rate to 6.5%, we'll see that the payment reduces to $745.57, and the interest reduces to just under $79,000. If we wanted to make this more of a car payment, let's change the amount to $30,000 with a 5-year term. At 5 years, the payment is about $587 with $5,219.07 in interest paid to the bank. But what if we make extra principal payments to reduce the loan faster? Here we will type in $1,500 in month 20, cell C26, and $1,200 in cell C28, and $1,000 in cell C30. Everything calculates and the loan is paid off 5 months earlier. Now that you are making some money, you need to use this schedule to help you save for retirement.
In his recent video, Ramit Sethi says, your rich life is about freedom, choice, and living on your terms. But Ramit Sethi never opens a spreadsheet to show you the way to track your retirement. Come on a journey with me and build a retirement tracker in Google Sheets so that you can tell whether you are taking the right steps to retire rich. Let's get started. Ramit Sethi and many others like Dave Ramsey promote saving money from your paycheck every week and investing in low-cost index mutual funds. One of the examples Ramit Sethi likes to use, and it makes sense because it's so simple, is that if you save $500 a month today, after 40 years, you'll have about $1.2 million. It's a proven strategy to get rich slow and easy, but it's dreadfully painful and takes a lot of patience. To help you keep your patience and stay on track, let's build a model right now in Google Sheets to see what that looks like. I could give it to you, but by building with me, you'll understand how it works and learn more about Google Sheets. Really, open up Google Sheets and build with me. If you do this right, you'll be investing for 30 or 40 years, so you have 15 minutes to build this tracker to last you a lifetime. Here, I have a blank Google Sheets canvas, and I'm excited to share this with you today. So what does a good retirement savings budget look like? To build a retirement savings budget, we need to know some things and assume some things. So we need to know your current age, what year you are going to begin, your estimated retirement age, the beginning balance of your retirement funds in case you've already started saving, the estimated rate of return, how much money you currently make, how much of your wages you are willing to save, and an estimate of your annual wage increase. We could make the model more detailed, but this will be enough and not overcomplicate things. So, to align with Ramit Sethi's retirement savings scenario, let's put our current age at 25. We'll begin saving in 2025. We want to retire at age 65 to align with Ramit Sethi's 40 years of retirement saving. Our beginning balance will be $0. Now, an assumption he made was a 7% rate of return in the stock market. To save $500 per month in the first year is $6,000 annually. So let's set our annual wages at $60,000, which is about $29 per hour. I know this is a lot for some of you, but I want to show Ramit Sethi's model in real terms first. We'll discuss other scenarios later. So to get $6,000 contributed to retirement each year, we would need to save 10% of our salary. Our last assumption will be that your wage will grow 2% per year, equal to the usual rate of inflation. Now, stay with me as this is about to get good and where the real magic happens. I'm going to show you how to build this out so you can see how much you will have saved for retirement each year. We are going to need some columns. In row 7, we'll put age, year, annual wage, beginning balance, which is the balance at the beginning of each year, contributions, investment earnings, model balance at the end of the year, and the growth of the investments each year. And we'll add a column here called actual balance, which we'll use later. Let's format these by putting a line underneath and centering and bolding the column titles and wrapping text. Now, let me easily walk you through these formulas as you follow along with me. How can we dynamically have a series of age based on the first year in the column? For the age, we are going to have cell A8 be a formula. So type in equals B1 so the cell captures the age we entered above. Next, in cell A9, fill in the formula equals A8 plus 1 and copy that cell down to A65. Now the age column is growing by a year each row and is dynamically attached to the age you fill in to B1 in our facts and assumptions section. Next, how can we dynamically have a series of years based on the first year in the column? In cell B8, we are going to do what we did for age and fill in equals B2 to grab the year we filled in above. Now each row is going to add a year of investing, so in cell B9, fill in equals B8 plus 1. Now copy cell B9 and paste down the column to match with the age column. Now we know each row is how old you are and what year you reached that age. This will put context to how well you are saving for retirement through time. How do I calculate a wage increase based on inflation? This is really helpful to view what your wages could be based on inflation in 10 to 30 years. In cell C8, type in equals F1. This will grab the annual wages we put up in the facts and assumptions section. Now, the best way to show inflation growing wages over time is to use cells for each year and apply an inflation percentage for each year. So in cell C9, fill in equals if, open parentheses, A9 less than or equals to string B, string 3, comma, C8 times, open parentheses, 1 plus string F, string 3, close parentheses, comma 0, close parentheses. So this is a complicated formula with an if function. We want to show our investment contributions and wages only during the time we are working. So when I hit F2, you can see that if the corresponding age is less than or equal to the retirement age above, then calculate the wage, otherwise return 0 because you're retired and you won't have a salary to save for retirement with. Copy the formula in C9 down to the bottom of the data set. Do you see the $ in the formula? This makes sure as you copy down the spreadsheet that the retirement age continues to reference B3 and the inflation rate references F3. Now you can choose your rate of inflation. Here we put in 2%, but you can easily change to 3% or another factor. At 2% growth per year, when you are 51, you could be making $100,000. Did you know that? Now that we've worked these columns to completion, let's finish out the top row next. The beginning balance will be equals D8, but the contributions will be annual wages times the contribution percent, or in cell E8, fill in equals string F, string 2 times C8, which will equal $6,000. To be simple, let's calculate investment earnings in the first year off of the beginning balance. So in cell F8, fill in equals D8 times string B, string 5, again locking the interest rate of return to cell B5. The model balance then will be the beginning balance plus contributions plus investment earnings, or equals D8 plus E8 plus F8. The growth in your retirement each year will be the model balance minus the beginning balance, or G8 minus D8. Our model will always show an increase, but don't be surprised if you lose money some years. Hey, look at that, the first year is done. Okay, let's go to year 2 and make the beginning balance equal to the ending balance of year 1. We'll do that by going to D9 and typing in equals G8. We can copy this formula down to the end as well. Back up to contributions in cell E8. Copy E8 down to the bottom of the list. Here we see increased contributions in terms of dollars, but staying with the 10% of annual wages. You see, when your wage increases with inflation, your contributions can increase as long as you continue contributing the same percent. Next, let's work on investment earnings and copy cell F8 down to the bottom of the sheet. Now, in the model balance, we add the beginning balance plus contributions and investment earnings together and can copy G8 down to the bottom to see the ending balance by year. Each year you can see with the increased balance, you can expect increased earnings. Again, this is a model to represent Remit SETI's scenario, and you need to hang on so that we can show you how to compare your actual results over time to this model. Then the growth per year can also be copied down in column H to see your investment increase by year. So now that you have the model, let's copy this sheet so that we can build a sheet to report your actual results. To copy a sheet, click the drop-down arrow and select Duplicate. Then on your sheet, click the drop-down arrow and rename the sheet to Actual. Rename Sheet 1 to Model. Now in the actual sheet, let's rename Model Balance to Ending Balance, and let's change the assumptions. Let's say we keep everything the same, but the rate of return is reduced to 6%. At 65, you'll have 1.3 million. But back on the first sheet, you will see with a 7% return, you can achieve 1.6 million. So as you can tell, the assumption of your rate of return really matters into how much you can save. Some would say that the S&P 500 can return as much as 10% on average per year. But how do you compare these two sheets to see actual investment returns against the estimate? I like to use graphs to see these differences over time. So the first thing we're going to do is put the ending balance on the model. In cell I8, enter the formula equals, then click on the actual sheet and click on G8 and hit enter. Now you will have the formula equals actual exclamation point G8 in cell I8. Copy and paste that formula to the bottom. Now create a new sheet by clicking on the plus sign in the lower left corner. Rename the sheet to graph. Click on cell B3 and then select Insert Chart from the menu. Change the chart type to a line chart. Now select the data range by clicking on the 4-square box. Click on the model sheet, then click on the model balance and press Ctrl while selecting the column data. Then, while pressing Ctrl, select Actual Balance and select the whole column of data, then click OK. Now make the graph bigger to see the data better. Now you can see the model balance at 7% is growing faster than the actual at 6%. We can add an x-axis by clicking the x-axis and selecting the age column and click OK. Now click Customize and select Data Labels. Can you see that the first 15 years, nothing really matters? But then, at about the age of 50, you can really see the 7% increase away from 6% returns. So how can I keep track of my retirement every year? Now that you've made your schedule, we can use the workbook. So let's change things a little bit. Let's keep the first year the same, but let's show negative 500 for investment earnings in the second year. The market went down. Notice the balance went down and the model went down. Let's change the actual back to 7% too. Now in year 3, let's show a salary increase to 63,000. Now let's look at the graph and see if there's a noticeable change. Even though you got a higher raise, the money invested doesn't change a lot. And notice the line's almost equal now that they both show 7% returns. Again, let's move investment earnings in year 4 to 0. Even though you didn't have any earnings in year 4 because your wage is higher, the investments are still good. But what if your investments lost $2,000 in year 5? That's a big hit. There is a little difference, but nothing noticeable when you look at the graphs. So I made all of these changes to show you that if you follow Remit Seti's advice, your retirement is durable, and with a savings each year, you can grow your retirement to well over 1 million. But every year you can update the actual sheet and track how changes are made. Also with the graphs, you can see that it takes 15 years to get to $200,000, which is not a lot of money. But the next 15 years, you'll get to $725,000, which triples your balance. Then, the next 10 years can get more than double again to 1.6 million. That's the power of compounding investing that Remit Seti and Dave Ramsey speak about. And this tracker will help you be patient those first 20 years, because even though your balance is small, you can see it working and you can see what is coming next will blow your mind. But let's return the actual to the original formulas by using Ctrl-Z, undo, and getting the rate of return at 7%. So actual equals the model. Let's reduce annual wages to 40,000, but keep everything the same. At 65, you'll still have $1 million.
QR codes are great for when you are on the go and meeting people. Here is how you can make and share them in Google Sheets. Do you need to generate QR codes for inventory or business links, but hate typing complex formulas on your phone screen? In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Gemini AI to provide the code for us so that you can copy, paste, and instantly generate QR codes right inside Google Sheets Mobile without knowing complex code. Let's get started. So have you seen QR codes? Do you wonder how they make them? Do you wonder if it's complex? It's actually pretty easy, and you can do it in Google Sheets on your phone anytime. Let me show you how to do it. I don't know the code, but Gemini AI does. So let's go to Gemini AI and make this really easy. How do I create QR codes in Google Sheets on my phone? So let's see what it comes back. Says there's a clever hack. Says there's a formula. Then understanding the formula if you want to learn about that. And then pro tips for mobile. So what I would recommend is copy the formula. And again, it's an image formula. And it goes out to a website and it brings back the QR code. So you'll see that's in A2. So I'm going to paste here. And it says loading. And I'm going to put in a website. I have another YouTube channel called Camp Brood, hiking and traveling the national parks. Now, we didn't get what we wanted, did we? In a minute, I'm going to show you how to make it work. But if you want to stop fighting with Excel and start mastering business systems with Google Sheets on your phone, like I'm helping you with here now, hit that subscribe button. I'm an accountant with over 30 years of experience, and I love to help small business owners and professionals build their back office in Google Sheets Mobile. Okay, so it didn't work, and I knew it wouldn't work. So that's why I'm doing this video, because if you try it, you might stop there. But in Gemini AI, you can go further and say, this didn't work. Is there an update? I think I used the wrong there, but it's Gemini AI understands it. So I've got a new formula. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into Google Sheets. We're going to paste it. And now I have my QR code. So the other advantage is you can expand your row height. And you can zoom in. Expand your width. And there you can share the QR code and it'll take you right out to campbrood.com. Now that you've seen how to make a QR code, if you're running a business, you need to look the part. Stop using a personal Gmail address for your company and check out the link in the description for a free 14-day trial of Google Workspace. It's the professional upgrade your small business needs to succeed. Learn more in our video description while you watch. And now let me show you how you can make multiple QR codes in Google Sheets. Once you have the file set up, you just copy and paste. And now you can see the formula down there. And we're going to add another website. I'll add the Small Business COO website. Now I've got a QR code for another website. And if you want to share a YouTube channel, just do youtube.com and your handle. Now, do you know why I don't have a QR code yet? Because I didn't copy and paste. If you work internationally with subconsultants or with clients, here's a currency converter to help you know exactly what you're committing to. Are you ready to build a blank Google Sheet into a currency converter on your phone that you can customize yourself to escape the restriction and cost of a one-size-fits-all app? Let's get started. We're going to begin with the formula that makes it all happen, then build a currency dashboard and follow it up with formatting that will turn your sheet into a professional tool. We've got a blank Google Sheet here, and I'm going to title it Currency Converter. And we're going to start with the United States dollar. So, is there even a formula or a function that will handle currency conversions in Google Sheets? Let's go ask Gemini AI. So is there a function to handle currency conversion in Google Sheets? So I just typed it in this time. So there it is. There's a Google Finance function that fetches real-time exchange rates directly from Google Finance. So you can see the basic formula syntax is equal Google Finance, open parentheses, currency from and to, close parentheses. And then here's a good example as well. There we go. Let's just copy this. Copy. All right, go paste. Go right here. In cell B4, I'm going to paste. And it's NA because it's got from to. So let's go ahead, backspace here. I'm going to do United States dollar, USD, to CAD. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do close parentheses, and let's see what happens. Okay, right now it's 1.39244,989. Now I could go the other way. So that is $1 US to 1 Canadian dollar. So 1 Canadian dollar is over 1 US dollar. But if I go the other way, CAD to USD, you'll see that 1 Canadian dollar is about 72 cents of a US dollar. So we're going to work through this, and I'm going to show you how this will work. We're going to put $1 here just so as a placeholder. I'll show you how it will work in a minute. I don't like the formatting here, so I'm going to hit the A. I'm going to go to cell, number format. I'm going to go to, let's do currency. I want to make a currency converter such that I can see multiple currencies compared to the dollar amount that I have in US dollar. So the first one that I want to do in cell A7 is CAD. So in here, I'm going to use the formula, but there's a way to do that. So equals B5 times Google Finance. And it gave me the parentheses. I'll select currency, colon, USD, CAD, quote. There you'll see $1.39. But what I can do, if I want to know the conversion of $5, now you can see it's $6.96. So let's change this back to $1. And let's format this to Canadian dollars. Now what I can do is I can go to number format, and I can select more currency formats, and I can scroll down to the Canadian dollar and select it. Look, there's a couple different ones. I'm going to pick that one. Okay, now since I have the United States neighbor to the north, let's do the United States neighbor to the south. Let's do the Mexican peso. And again, what we're going to do is I'm going to copy this down to make it easy so I don't have to type it. But I'm going to change this back to B5 colon times. And I'm going to do USD to MXN. And now I have the Mexican peso currency conversion, but I need to do our formatting. So I'm going to go to number format. More currency formats. I'm going to go down to Mexico, Mexican peso. All right, now got a large audience in India. So let's do INR. And that is the Indian rupee. So here we are going to paste again because I still have it stored. We're going to do B5. Then again, Google Finance, open parentheses, quote, currency, colon, USD to INR, quote. And now we have 9087 in Indian rupees. We're going to do the number format again, more currency formats. I'm going to go down to Indian rupee. Okay. So that is a currency converter that you can set up in your phone. It has about a 20 minutes delay. So I'm going to add that here just so everyone knows that currencies are delayed up to 20 minutes. And I can see a lot of use out of this currency converter. So we're just going to create a new sheet. So I'm going to title this one USD. And I'm going to title this one INR. Click OK. INR. It's hard to type on these. But if you're on the go or you don't have an expensive computer, these phones are great. We're going to do another currency converter, Indian rupee. Okay, so let's go through this again. I have INR to USD. And again, we're going to go equals Google Finance, quote, currency, quote, or colon, INR, USD, quote, close parentheses. And now we'll see that the Indian rupee is a fraction of a US dollar. So now let's work with it a little bit. INR. And we're going to put in 10,000. Let's format it. Number format. More currency formats. Okay, now let's work some different currencies here so you can see how it works. US dollar. Okay, equals. I'm going to do a string here so you can see how that works too. Times Google Finance, quote, currency, colon, we're going to do this special, quote, at string A, string 5 at A7. Watch this. Okay, so 110 US dollars. So what you'll see there is I took the currency 3-letter acronym from A5 and A7, put it in my formula so that I could do a dynamic calculation. Now, when I copy down, I'll show you that I can do euros here. And now my currency automatically translates for INR to EUR. So let's format the currency. Number format, more currency formats. Let's go down to euro. Okay, let's do US dollar. Now let's do United Arab Emirates dirham, AED. And let's do the Saudi Riyal, SAR. And let's do the GBP, or Great British Pound. We are going to copy and paste. And now I have all 3 currencies already translated for me using those 3 letters. Yeah, there's the British pound, so we'll do that one. But the Saudi Riyal and the UAE dirham are not in here. So what I'm going to do is just make them a number because there's no reason to have a currency on them. Whenever I change the dollar amount here for Indian rupee, you can see that all of my currencies change real time. The other thing that's nice about Google Sheets, as the currencies update, all of these will change as well. And the only thing you have to do if you ever want the most recent amount is just change the amount here, and you'll get the most recent currency conversion from one currency to the other. To learn more Google Sheets for your personal finances and small business, watch this video next.